Welcome to another edition of Michigan Conservative Roundtable. Today we're going to be talking about the corrupt media. Years past we would have said something about the leftist bias in the media, but it's gone past that. And we're going to talk about some of the ways it's gone from being biased to being corrupt. And we're going to kick it over to Marty.
Okay, I've got some opinions on this matter, as you might imagine. We've got the Reuters Beto O'Rourke thing, okay? They sit on the story of him being involved with computer hackers. They sit on the fact that he wrote a story about running over children with his car. They sit on this for 6-7 months, all to try to make sure it doesn't come out in time to harm his Senate race against Ted Cruz. That's not a mistake. That's not bias. That's corruption. Like a week before the 2000 election, they reported on George Bush's DUI from 1976, which he served his time for, and then he stopped drinking about 10 years later and hadn't had a drink in about 14 years by then, but they still bring it up at the last minute as though it should make a difference. That's not a mistake. That's corruption. You hear about the Islamic massacres in New Zealand, which of course were horrible, but they don't say anything about the Christian massacres by Islamic militarists in Nigeria that happened at just about the same time. That's not a mistake. That's corruption. Then they show all the New Zealand women government leaders wearing the headscarf and not taking the time to point out that Islam is probably the most anti-woman religion of the major religions in the world. They don't point out that inconsistency. That is something they made up their minds to do. That was an overt act. That shows corruption, not honest mistakes. When the Mueller report first came out, I haven't checked this out, but my understanding is Rachel Maddow was nearly in tears. Nearly in tears. And why? Because the President of the United States, her president, was not being found guilty of treason. That's not a mistake. That's not a bias. That's corruption.
Right. Yeah. Chris Matthews with his tingle up his leg when Obama got... if you watch the cable news in particular, on a daily basis, you'll watch interviews and they'll have a guest who will say, Don Lemon, as Tucker Carlson likes to call him. I thought it was Don Lemon, but he calls him Don Lemon. Don Lemon saying the real problem in this country, the greatest threat to this country is white people. Goes unchallenged, except for on Fox. On his network, if I'm interviewing TJ, he can say the most outrageous thing, and there's no follow-up question. A real journalist would go, wait a second, how do you know that's true? Or what's your basis for that comment? Yeah. That doesn't happen anymore.
And that's not thought of as racist.
And it's not thought of as racist, and it goes to the level of corruption past bias. TJ?
Well, all you got to do is watch any daily press conference by Sarah Huckabee Sanders and the way they treat her. Clearly, they're manifesting their feelings towards her and Trump for sure. But in regards to the few weeks back when we had the Covington kids there in Washington D.C. and the way the media was so quick to smear the Covington kids, and they made the Indian dude out to be some kind of a saint, saying how he was an ex-Vietnam vet and whatnot, and then finds out that for a brief time he might have been in the military, but he never served in Vietnam, and the facts were so off that they made no effort to be accurate in the details they were reporting. So much so that the Covington kid, and I forget the guy's name if you guys could remind me, but the lawyer, Lynn Wood, is suing all those different media outlets for he gave them a chance to retract and apologize, and they were going to dig in and hold their ground. So now he's suing it, and the easy one to mention would be CNN. He's suing CNN for $250 million because not only would they not retract, they made it pretty obvious in no way were they even going to try and get the story right, and now CNN. Well, I don't know if they'll win or lose, but they're going to be in for a fight because I hear this guy's pretty good.
And they have to know that everyone has got a camera phone now.
Yeah.
So that the truth is always going to come out about these. Somebody's going to have the longer video of what you've shown. Alyssa Milano is getting sued. Bill Maher is getting sued. And I hope they win every damn one of them. I hope the kid's got $1 billion by the time he's done.
Absolutely, absolutely. Something's got to be done to rein in the media, and that's really the only thing I see that can be. You've got to start challenging it through the courts, and it helps. I think that we've got a pretty obvious case there.
Well, years ago, I think it was 20 years ago, there were about 50 different companies that owned the major media outlets. Today there are 6. And then Fox was just bought by some liberal. And someone told me it was Disney, but was it Disney?
I heard Disney. Yeah,
and I think you had posted something different on Facebook. I don't know who the person was, but the rush to judgment, the glee in which they report things. If you saw the Rachel Maddow, I've got the president's taxes and aha, and just wait. And so she comes out and reports that he paid $38 million in taxes in 1 year. And even Don Lemon at CNN had to laugh about that. Or not Don Lemon, but the guy used to be Van Jones, said, well, that's a pretty good day for the president if he only paid $38 million in taxes. So, they complain about the Russian interference in our elections, and I don't even know what that means exactly. They didn't change any votes. But I can tell you that MSNBC, CNN, they're running essentially promotional ads for leftist candidates nonstop, 24/7. And they're interfering in our elections far more than the Russians were effectively doing.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you get things, and interference, and I don't want to stray too much from the subject, but interference in the election, Barack Obama was making commercials for a candidate in the French elections. And no, nothing wrong with that. No problem there whatsoever, okay? And for the record, I don't care that he was making commercials for the French election, but it certainly is a kind of electioneering, and the media didn't seem to have a problem with that. Why? Because it fit their narrative.
He did the same thing in Israel with Benjamin Netanyahu. He sent people and he sent money. I believe it was taxpayer dollars he sent there to defeat Benjamin Netanyahu because he doesn't like him, because he's a conservative.
Yeah.
They don't dig past the surface of their agenda on things like the healthcare scam. If you like your doctor, you can keep your doctor. Oh, you'll drop your bill $2,500 a month. It takes very little journalistic integrity and work to get to the bottom that was a line of crap. They didn't report that. They just said, oh, we're all going to be taken care of. They report constantly that there's voter suppression. That doesn't happen. Black people aren't going to be allowed to vote. They cheer Joe Biden when he says, well, they're going to put y'all back in chains. No one challenges him on, really, we're going to reintroduce slavery? I mean, come on. Very little integrity. It's sickening.
It gets ridiculous. It reaches ridiculous bounds.
Yeah, 92% of the comments or stories on the president are of a negative nature.
And I get it to a degree. I mean, the press is kind of naturally adversarial. I get it to a degree, but I think what really irritates me is they try to hammer on the point that they're fair and objective, and they're simply not fair and objective. The old news reporter Paul Harvey, he used to have a syndicated 5 or 10 minute shot that was on WJR here locally in Detroit, but anyway, he called it Paul Harvey News and Views, if I'm remembering right.
Yeah.
And somebody said to him, well, you're not just reporting the news. He says, no, I'm not. Except that when I say news, I stick to news. When I say views, I say this is views. And the current news media doesn't do that.
No.
They don't make the distinction between news and opinion. You want to state your opinion, CNN? State your opinion. But don't tell me that your opinion is factual, hard news.
Maybe the Congress needs to look into this issue because it's a problem. And 6 companies owning all the outlets. That's.
Yeah.
I mean, they busted up AT&T for a lot less.
Yeah, absolutely.
So.
Absolutely.
Either you gentlemen have anything to add?
Well, I'm just going to add this. A couple years back, we had that whole hands up, don't shoot. The media ran with that.
They did.
And it was almost like They didn't even try to wait for the truth to come out. And then when the truth did come out, they made no effort to correct the mistaken reporting. And whether it's hands up, don't shoot, whether it be the Covington's kids or you
Kavanaugh. The Kavanaugh case.
Kavanaugh thing.
Yeah,
They go into this knee-jerk reporting, and when they get caught with their hand in the cookie jar, there's no retraction, there's no correction, there's no nothing. They just move on to the next.
Often they double down on the story.
Yeah, because
like Elizabeth Warren did when she got caught being a fake Indian.
so it's just It's just one of those things where the media, instead of admitting the truth, they just want to dig in and get themselves into a
They
deeper
can't
hole.
be wrong. And that's something I've noticed with my progressive friends. I've got a friend on Facebook who's very liberal and admits it.
Is he a liberal or is he a leftist? I'm curious.
Well,
Because for me, there's a difference.
describes himself as very liberal, and that's what his Facebook profile says. And describes himself as very liberal. Damn, boys, I forgot where I was going with that.
He's not wrong.
But he's never wrong. Exactly, that's what it was. And he's never wrong. And to the point that I've been basically disinvited from ever commenting on his page because I'm just trolling. This is someone I've known almost as long as Mac here, almost 50 years. And now we can't be friends simply because I disagree with him because I'm going against his narrative.
By the way, you just triggered something in my brain here. This goes to their whole pragmatic approach. Okay, the end justifies the means. Okay, well, we have a goal, which we clearly don't, we object to, but because their goal is so pure and virtuous, it doesn't matter how they get there, even if it includes less than accurate reporting.
Ruining people's lives.
Yeah, just to achieve this goal they have in mind. So thank you.
Well, what's the thing that Bill Buckley said? And I'm going to paraphrase this very roughly but it basically, Bill Buckley said, the left invites discussion and diversity until they realize that there's going to be discussion and diversity.
Right.
And then they don't want it anymore.
Yeah, and today's media encourages these college campuses to shut down anybody who doesn't agree with them. They cheer them on.
The end justifies the means.
Yeah,
Okay.
pretty much says it.
I have never seen a leftist booed off the stage in a college campus.
No.
But I've seen many
Or
conservatives.
disinvited, that I can remember.
Or disinvited, yeah.
And we've been around a while, so.
Yeah. You longer than me. I'm the young one in the group.
Yeah. 3 weeks
I'm the
older.
old one.
Yeah, so I'm just the middle baby. So that's
You
gonna,
know how middle children are, right?
that's going to wrap it up today. So as we like to say on the Michigan Conservative Roundtable, be safe, watch your six, and don't tread on me.